My name's Brian Kemp, and we're at Mountain Meadows Farm in Sudbury, Vermont. Now we're a little under our target weights. The owner took on a new store last year, which is 50 more beef a year, and it's rushing us a little bit.
Okay.
So we like to normally finish at 750 on the rail.
Yep.
We're averaging, last week we averaged about 715, 720.
Okay.
So
live weights for those animals would be around 12, 1250, something?
Oh, about 13.
13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 13 will give us about a 750 carcass weight on average.
Okay. And when you say the owner took on another store, I'm going to ask.
Whole Food stores.
Okay. Yep.
All of our beef goes to Whole Foods.
Yep.
And we direct market. It's not through any third party.
Individual buyers at Whole Foods are ordering from you on a weekly basis.
It's a kind of a unique model.
Yeah.
They don't even put in an order.
Okay.
We've got a schedule set up.
Yeah.
Certain stores get it every week. Some get it every other.
Yep.
And it's a rotating schedule. So, there's only 6 animals right now going out a week, but each store is getting a half carcass.
Oh, okay.
So that's this week. That's being divided up amongst 12 stores.
And you're going to send them primals and trim?
Primals and trim.
Okay, and they grind their own?
Some of them will take the oxtail, some will take the tongues.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're not marketing everything. Like livers usually don't go.
Okay.
There's not a lot of stores that want liver. Now and then you get a request for some liver.
Okay.
Hearts don't go. So we're missing out there a little bit. So this is our finished group. We generally average around 60 head in here at a time.
Okay.
We just moved in about 15 or so this week. So there is a little bit of a range here in frame, you'll see. But
how long are they in the finished barn, Brian?
About 12 weeks, 12 to 14 weeks.
Okay.
And they're getting a TMR, a second and third cut, alfalfa grass mix, corn silage, and cornmeal. Organic, and it's all organic grains, everything.
How's that compare to, say, like a heifer ration on a dairy farm? As a grower ration? It'd be a
little bit higher in energy.
Higher energy
than a heifer ration.
Yeah.
So I just had a guy down here last week. Well, you may know, they didn't know your name, so you may not know him, but the Vostervelds have a dairy up in Panton, and one of them has a lady friend growing Wagyu beef. Yeah. And I thought, they want to come down and talk about Wagyu, but they weren't looking to into
brothers up there? The two
That's brothers? The brothers.
Yeah.
Yep, Hans and Gerard and Rudy, 3 of them.
Yep.
And she's bought some Wagyu cows a couple years ago, and she's trying to develop a market for Wagyu.
Yeah.
She wanted to come down to talk about feeding, because Gerard's like, I don't know, and the nutritionist John Oddie from Phoenix Feeds used to feed our beef. Okay. So John's like, go call Brian, and see. So they were looking for rations on what to finish on, what to grow on. Yeah. So we started out with our weaned calves going on to a TMR and pasture in the summer, and they'll be getting more protein for the growth stages. Okay. So from weaning on up to about 14 months, they're being fed a higher protein to energy ratio.
And you got a cow-calf operation.
Yeah,
we're weaning late? Or?
We're weaning at 6 months.
6 months,
sometimes we have 2 calving groups, a spring and a fall. Yeah. The fall are with their mothers right now, and some of those will approach close to 8 months before they're weaned, because it's just challenging for us in the spring. We don't have enough infrastructure to wean in like 2 groups, so some of them will go over the 6 months, and they'll be August calves, and we won't wean till about April. Okay. So they're pushing 8 months old, which is good for them.
You finish males and females?
We finish males and females. Yeah. We can buy replacement breed stock heifers bred more cheaper than what the value of these animals go to market for.
And so keeping an Angus herd and a Charolais herd primarily.
So we're terminal cross. We're terminal crossing. Yep. So we've got, out of our mother cow herd, we're about 40% Charolais, 40% Angus, 20% F1s, which are the cross that we've kept for our own replacements. Okay. When sales allow it, we try to keep a dozen heifers or so a year. We don't do it every year. This is a year here where we haven't been able to.
Taking on a new
so we bought some heifers for $1,800 bred. They were ultrasounded. They were all confirmed with heifer calves in them. So we got double the bang for our buck there. So we'll keep those calves for replacements because they're purebred Charolais.
Now, what are you looking for in genetics on your animals?
We try to, when we're looking at animals either on the bull side or the cow side, we're trying to purchase in from reputable seed stock operations. We're willing to pay extra for genetics. We've paid upwards of a few years ago when the market was stronger. We paid $3,000 for some really good heifers. Bred heifers. They were bred heifers.
What features do you look for?
We just want to know that they're good feet, good udders. Disposition comes into play, but it's not like number one,
What's special about the genetics, though?
The genetics, we're looking for growth, growth potential. On the heifers, we're looking for, milk, and the EPDs on those animals will, you can correlate all that. On the bull side, we're typically looking, for the carcass traits, the strength in the carcass traits, growth again. And on the Charolais bulls, we pay a little closer attention to calving because they are breeding Angus cows. But the Charolais genetics have been refined. About 20 years ago, the Charolais Association realized, okay, look, our bulls are predominantly breeding other breeds. We need to refine this, this calving, and they've really done a good job on it. We're breeding, we won't breed like a first calf heifer Angus to a Charolais, but by her third calf, we're comfortable. And we don't pull calves. They'll calve out 80-pound calves, which is good for this size frame Angus that we have. And we traditionally buy a little larger frame Angus. We wouldn't buy like a low-line Angus designed for grass-based operations. We like the bigger girls, the bigger cows, and you could see some later if we want to go over there. We just want, we want good structure, good feet and udders, because particularly with the cows, we have cows here that are calving that are still 13, 14 years old. So the udder and the foot, is important because those are the two first things that'll break down on you with a cow, typically in a beef operation. In a dairy, it's a little different, but they're pushed a little harder. It's pretty unheard of in the dairy world to have a 14-year-old cow on the farm. So these animals here are, with the exception of a few mixed in here, most of these are 2019 fall calves. So they were born August through October of 2019. They're 17, 18 months, coming 17, 18 months. And
so your average finish time is, 18 to 20 months at the moment?
18 to 20, okay. Yep. If the sales weren't as strong, we could get to 22. It'd be a little better. We'd get that extra. We're feeding for 3.25 pounds of weight gain here a day.
Okay.
And this winter, we've been hitting that target pretty well.
In the finish barn?
In the finish barn. Okay. In the other groups, it's less. Yep. We're at 2.75, okay. 2.5 to 2 3/4. Yep. Like these animals, we're going to take 6 out of here tonight for slaughter. This afternoon, we'll sort them and I'll take them to slaughter in the morning. What I'm looking for is the back, nice flat back, which means their loins are full. They're starting to get the back fat. They get the tail head fat around the tail. And then the last thing that usually an old guy taught me was the brisket development. That's about the last place they're going to put the fat on. So, when you look at these animals, those ones that stand out to me, this animal's getting close, but I probably won't select her tonight. I'll give her another week or two.
Yep.
But I just saw a black one over here that looked real nice. Just a good flat back and, and the full right there in the middle of this 571. That animal's going to be right around 13, maybe 13, 10 or 20 on the hoof. Yep. And that's what we're looking to finish. We like to have consistency out of the 6 we send. We'd like to only see a maximum of 50 pounds difference, in live weight. And we'll weigh them when we sort them tonight. And that way we...
demanding that kind of consistency?
Well, it's just nice for them. Every now and then you can't do it. And Dr. Cooper's takes care, the owner of the farm, takes care of the sales end of stuff. So he knows which stores use a little less volume.
Okay.
So if we have one a little lighter, he'll divide it between 2 of the stores that don't need the... and then there's another store that takes one every week. So he'll try to give them a heavier carcass.
You mentioned the owner's taking care of the sales and marketing side of things. How about on the operational side? How many full-time equivalents are working here? Yourself,
so there's
full-time, and
myself, the manager, and we have 2 other full-time year-round with a part-time all winter also. And then in the summer we have 2 to 3 additional for crops, part-time people, semi-retired guys that can come in, and one of them's been here. This was his family dairy farm. He milked cows in that barn. He's 81. He still comes in the summer and drives feed truck for us. He managed this prior to this owner owning it, buying it in the late 90s. He managed it. It was a registered Hereford operation. A different doctor owned it. And he managed it. Him and his brother sold the land base to that doctor. He started that registered Hereford operation and ran it for 20, 25 years. And this guy, Roland, managed it for him and then stayed on and works for us part-time. So he can't, it's his family farm. He lives right in that White House right there. So he great old guy, and we'll miss him when he calls it quits. But
so this is old dairy infrastructure.
This is an old dairy infrastructure right there. That was the milking barn, the tie stall barn. They converted it, they kind of gutted it, converted it into pens, and there's a working chute to work the cattle in this back alley up in the front. They built these barns back in the 80s and loafing sheds, and we just cleaned this today. We run the bedded packs, which is the chopped hay that we bed with, and this one was getting up to the top of the concrete, so we just cleaned it now and working on another one. We bed them about every other day, fresh bedding. Try to keep them top dress it. Yep, we don't clean the barn out. We just let it build for a couple feet, and then we'll clean it about every 2 months. But we scrape the yards every day, try to keep them cleaner and not tracking the manure in. And it's a challenge in the wintertime with temperatures like this morning. But you get an afternoon like this, you can usually run around and get a little bit of it cleaned up. But we're finishing right around 300 a year.
So 60 in the finishing barn at a time, revolving.
Revolving. So about every 2 weeks we'll bring in, 12 to 15 head and just try to maintain that level every 2.5 weeks. And
are you maintaining current numbers and increasing or declining? Or
we haven't been able to increase now. We've kind of been maintaining that number, finishing 300 now for about the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Land base is one of the limiting factors. Okay. We own 1,900 acres of contiguous ground with this farm, and we lease an additional 1,000 for crops. And there's not a lot left around. We had a couple conventional dairy farms that sold and transitioned to organic. So the organic lands have become more competitive, where in the past we were the only organic. So if you had a landowner that wanted it to be organic, we kind of were a shoe-in. And over the years since I've been here, we picked up most of that 1,000 we've picked up in the last 8 to 10.
So you're producing 100% of the feed you need?
We produce all our feed except for our grain. We purchase in the organic grain. Yep. But all the forages we produce and put up ourselves. We don't hire. The only custom work we hire is our manure spreading in the summer, because we just can't do the crops and the manure with the personnel and the equipment.
Too short of a window.
Too short of a window. Yep.
On Addison Clay here?
Yeah, this right here, this side of the farm, we're actually standing in Rutland County right now.
Okay.
The border's like half a mile up the road.
Okay.
And then as you go west you get back into Addison County. So there's about 400 in Rutland County, and the remaining 1,400 plus is in Addison County. But as you get, this is some better soil here, but it's close to bedrock. There's shale. There's a lot of black shale here, and we actually have our own shale pit up there we use for material on the farm for roadways and stuff. But as you go west, yes, you get to the Virgins clay.
Okay.
Predominantly Virgins clay. But we do pretty well maintaining, our averages on yields are pretty competitive with conventional. We generate enough manure, and we do pull some manure from a neighboring dairy farm to get around on everything once, and some of it twice a year with manure. And we do buy in chicken litter to help grow our organic corn silage. The composted chicken litter helps not add to the weed pressure like the manure would. We do this bedded pack material we take out windrow for the winter, but we don't truly compost it. We don't get it cooked enough to kill the weed seed. And the liquid manure that goes into the manure lagoons, is always full of weed seed too. And so we use the chicken litter so that we're at least having a little bit better control
for where you're cropping.
For where we're putting the corn. Yep. On the grass ground and in the continuous grass grounds and stuff, you don't get the weed pressure. But we built a large facility, probably 12 years ago now, for our mother cows. When I first got here 15 years ago, there was a couple other old dairy barns that had been converted, but they were in really rough shape, and we tore them down, and we built a nice large facility that we can go look at. It's a bedded pack. It's basically the same scenario, but two barns running parallel with a feed alley down the middle.
Nice. And
we can house, 300 mothers there.
Okay.
And the calves too from the fall group. So
capacity wise,
and that's max over there. I mean, it's max.
Okay.
We've got 3 feedlots, just like this at this facility, where we're feeding from the wean calves.
Yep.
Right up through to the finish. And then we lease another facility in Leicester, about 5 miles from here, that we have more of the wean calves at from last fall.
Okay.
And we can house up to 100 over there.
Okay.
So, and we've got cropland that's leased with that over there. So we have the structures for the young stock. The limiting thing right now is the mature cows for winter housing. Vermont's water quality standards, we're classified an MFO, a medium farm operation. I don't think I would have a real good rapport with the state if we had 300 mother cows out on pasture in the wintertime. It'd be a challenge. And it'd be a challenge for shelter and water and everything. So
because the spring calves are coming pretty early anyway.
Spring calves, we calve between April and June, mid-June. So I pushed it back. When I got here the first year, they're calving in March, and we were in the mud, and we didn't have that nice facility to calve in, so we pushed it back immediately with the advice of our vet, who you just saw here earlier. He's worked with us closely since I've been here, and we decided we're not selling like a fall feeder market sale, so we don't care if they're 600 at fall, which they are, but we're not pushed for it. A lot of guys want to calve in earlier so they can have those heavier weights at weaning.
7 inches even.
We want good weights at weaning, but we're not under a calendar date, so much as they are. So we pushed it back to April when it's nicer, and even early April. I've had pictures of calves being born on snow, but they're tough, and if they get up nursing, that's all it takes. They're on their feet and going. So all our animals, we also sell, by selling to Whole Foods, we go through a third-party animal welfare audit, and that's looking at animal comfort, square footage to lay down, enough feed space, for the animals to feed without crowding and pushing, and a lot of, pasture rotation management and stuff. So Whole Foods started that process back in 2011. It's a 5-step rating, 1 being entry level, 5 being the max. We're a 4, which means we're grass-based, but we can grain finish. But we're grass-based, so they all have to have access to pasture in the summer.
So they still come in here to feed?
They still come in here to feed. Their water's in here. You have access to these paddocks here close by, so they're not having to travel. You know, you don't want them traveling when you're trying to finish them. The younger groups go out to bigger pastures. But this group here, we're allowed some flexibility there because it's understood that, you know, you're trying to finish them and you know, you don't want them traveling, you know, half a mile back here and there so they're fed daily, but they'll come in and out. And, you know, and typically in the heat of the day in the summer, they'll come back to the shade and that's where they'll lounge and eat. And then in the evenings, typically they'll spend the night on pasture. But,
let me go back to this a little bit, just briefly. Sure. You said you're at capacity on your brood cows right now, but are you at capacity on your feed barns too, or could you have more feeders in here?
We could probably handle another 50 to 75 feeders with space and feed. We've been selling feed consistently for the last 3-4 years. As I said earlier, the second and third cut feeds all the feeders. But we have so much first cut land for feed for the mothers and for bedding purposes that the animals that we're growing can't utilize all the forage we put up second and third cut. So we've been traditionally selling feed. And, you know, that's a tough one. I don't know if you ever make a lot of money selling feed, but it generates some income, you know.
But if you were to put that through more...
But if we were to put that through more animals, it would be more efficient. Have you, just for the sake of conversation here, have you looked to dairies to supply any kind of beef cattle or beef on dairy crossbred animals along the way, or are you exclusively using your Charolais Angus or like kind that you can find out in outside markets? We are pretty much exclusively using the Charolais Angus cross. We have bought in some supplemental feeders years ago before the mother cow herd reached these numbers, and they were purebred Angus. We personally, in our market, you know, we want that consistency. So we don't want a lot of variables, I think, in different breeds and stuff.
With the current markets,
with the current markets we have. Now, with that being said, I would like to see this farm diversify and try to tap into some other markets. And would I choose dairy animals? Probably not. Would I am having some very preliminary discussions with a organic dairy that's looking for a sideline thing to do, and talking to him about, you know, growing us some feeder calves. We would buy them at weaning, and we would finish them to our standards.
You take them at 200-300 pounds?
We'd take them at 500 pounds. So we'd want a weaning weight of 500. That's, you know, minimally, you know. And that could work for him. He's got the pasture ground. He's in a little bit of a dilemma right now. He knows his organic contract's expiring in April, and he's heard what the prices are going to be, and he's quite concerned. So he's thinking of downsizing his dairy, getting some beef genetics in, and growing some beef calves.
And dipping down in the 20s or something? Is that where his...
He was going to be around 30. He's been in the 40. He's had a luxury of being up in the 40 for like the last 3 years. And he got that contract and right at the right time. And then, you know, the market started getting full, and they haven't since, you know, nobody else has been on those prices. So he's nervous. He's looking at his numbers saying, okay, I might take a $10 hit per hundredweight here. Can I really justify that? See, if we had people growing us some organic feeders, typically what we've paid in the past for organic feeders, they also would have to have this GAP certification. We can't source from somebody who doesn't have that.
This is the animal welfare piece?
The animal welfare, the GAP Global Animal Partnership it's called. So he'd have to get that too. And with that, we understand the extra work, paperwork, record keeping. So the last time we sourced feeders, which was several years ago, but the last time we did it, we were paying a 40-cent premium for those feeders over conventional prices. Probably realistically now we'd have to look at more like 50, 55-cent premium.
So you're pushing $2 a pound.
So you're pushing $2 a pound. So that 500-pound calf is $1,000.
Certified both GAP and
certified organic and GAP. Yep. There's guys out west that we used to buy some feeders from that we were paying them 35 cents a premium, and that was before 2011. That was just for organic.
Now, would these have been dairy crosses?
No, they were all strictly purebred Angus.
This organic farm, this organic dairy, would he be throwing dairy crosses?
Not to me, no.
Oh, okay.
He's growing some himself, but no, he'd get some Angus genetics. He'd get some beef genetics. I mean, we're not, if he can grow us the carcass, then we get the growth potential. It's not locked in dead on Angus or Charolais, but they need to be good beef genetics. We want the texture to be the same. We want, the marbling to be similar. And I think when I understand the program you're doing with the Wagyu, and I think there's probably, that's going to balance it out.
The Holstein and the Wagyu.
Yeah, you're going to. That's a little different than somebody breeding their Angus cow with a Jersey bull or a Jersey cow with an Angus bull.
People talk about Jankus.
Yeah, and the Jersey, the fat's a different color. The meat's a different color. So, I wouldn't want to go down that path.
Primarily
I'd rather even for other markets.
Okay.
I'm not dishing it. I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I just think I know what we put out for a product, and I don't want a lot of variation. I wouldn't want to change our model that dramatically.
If you're developing new markets that might withstand some variance.
We're interested in the Akushi beef line. I've got a friend that we buy our Charolais bulls from in Missouri. He's right outside Kansas City. He just got into this about 5 or 6 years ago, and he was taking he's a seed stock operation, so he's selling bulls and cows and heifers. So he always had ones that didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
And he'd send them off to to a feedlot or whatever. And he decided, why don't we finish some of these ourselves?
Yeah.
So he started, and he also started, doing the Akashi beef. And now he has a store in Kansas City that he's putting 7 carcasses a week through it.
Yeah.
And he's running the Akashi beef. He's running what he calls his prime conventional beef.
These are purebred.
He's now crossing like we are.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Him and I had a long talk about the Charolais Angus, and he's doing some of that. And then he's got some purebred Angus too.
Yeah.
He's running 3 lines of beef in that store.
Yeah.
He calls it the Akashi, the Prime, and the Economy.
Yeah.
And people can have that selection in his showcase, and they can decide: do I want to pay $25 a pound? Do I want to pay $15? And it's going really well for him. But he's all beef breeds doing that. And and I look at that model and I think, boy, maybe we should be trying that. And in our discussions, the owner and I have talked about this a lot. And we thought, well, should we take some Wagyu genetics and try them on some Charolais, try them on some Angus, and see what happens, and maybe we could develop some other markets like that.
And you're doing primarily all natural breeding, or are you doing Angus?
Yeah, we're all natural breeding, and that is one thing, bringing that up. I don't know enough because I've never even inquired it with the organic standards, if we can cycle like cows to breed AI.
Yeah.
I got to
sinking and everything.
I got to look into that. I believe they can on the dairy side, but it's funny because sometimes the rules between beef and dairy are different. And you got to be careful. That's something that we've been batting around, and I don't know how that fit into your program, but
you would be open to leasing a bull who is identified as a sire that we've collected from, or something like that. Okay.
Yep, we would for natural service, absolutely. Yep. And we could pick out cows of each breed, and it'd be neat to see the comparison at the end. What the yield is, what the grading is between the two breeds, and
identical feed programs.
They'd be managed identically, but we would have, we'd have the Charolais, we'd have the Angus, and hey, maybe we throw a few F1s in there.
Yeah.
Which is 3/4 Angus, quarter Charolais. See if there's a difference, in the end, what the result would be. I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a nice product, I mean, that Akushi beef he has on his displays is, you could see it's way above and beyond in Marbleland than even this prime.
Prime is the catch, the motto, typically beyond prime.
So, we've been batting that idea around.
So you could feasibly, if you follow that same model that fell in Kansas City, you got a higher end, which would be your Wagyu Cross. And then you'd have your economy side. Would you ever be interested in developing an economy side?
I wouldn't want to rule it out, As we're in a little bit of a transition mindset right here on the farm. The doctor's 84. He has got a clean bill of health recently. He just beat lymphoma cancer. And so, he's optimistic again. He's like, you're going to have to put up with me a few more years. But we actually have a couple different investors that are somewhat interested in the farm. And they understand where we're at and what we're looking at doing and diversifying markets. And one of them was an investor, in the stock market. And he's got some connections in the restaurant world in New Jersey, and he's all excited. So we'll see what happens down that channel. But they all, everybody, understands the need for diversification. We've had all our eggs in one basket with Whole Foods, and it's worked.
Yeah.
But you never know. And if they were to call us next week and say, we're just not going to pay that anymore. We're going to do something different. We don't need organic grain finished. We got enough grass fed. Where are we going to start shipping these 6 every week and get the price point that we get? We need to have some backup market.
Right, that's the breath when Amazon bottom out.
We were nervous. Yeah. All of us hype and the prices are going to get slashed and this. We never heard a thing. Yeah. We never got a letter. We were just like this, and everything stayed the same. And, I think with COVID, we saw I saw it with neighbors and friends that are in the beef and everything, vegetables, beef, everything local. Yeah. Took off last year.
A lot of disruption in the market.
And when the big slaughterhouses got shut down and everything, and people couldn't go to the supermarket and even buy burger at first, they went next door. And these markets are still holding strong. These guys are doing well. And, growing up here in Vermont, it's always bugged me. We don't ever have any of our product here, and why shouldn't we be able to sell, $7 ground beef right here also, and that would be a goal of mine down the road too, is to try to get some type of local market, and maybe it's with that economy line. You do that to get it started and get a following. But Vermonters, they like local, and if they can afford it, I think it's important to a lot of Vermonters, and especially in this county, we have the luxury of Middlebury College and having the bedroom communities to Middlebury. I live in Cornwall myself, which is a bedroom community in Middlebury, and there's some higher end homes and everything, and second homes that people come up, they're willing to buy and pay for good product, So I think there's opportunities that we just have never tapped on. The doctor was worked up until his mid-70s. He never was a marketing guy, even though he got it into Whole Foods through the back door 20-something years ago, and it grew on its own, you know, and he grew with it. He still would tell you he's not a marketing, guy. It just happened, it worked. How he ever convinced them to take a minimum half carcass, and they've stuck with it all these years, is beyond me, but they never asked for anything different. It's understood when that store takes product, they're going to take a minimum half a beef. And so we have no coolers here. We have no freezers with anything in them.
Who does the distribution for you?
We subcontract Black River Produce to take it from the slaughterhouse in Benson, which is about 20 minutes from here. They take it to Cheshire, Connecticut, which is Whole Foods distribution center for the Northeast. And then from there, it's all labeled. Our facility labels it for us. If it's going to the store called Fresh Pond, the boxes all have Fresh Pond on them. The next one, Manhasset, is Manhasset. So there's no confusion. And it goes in on the pallets, and they divvy it up, put it on their own trucks to go to their own stores from that distribution center. So Black River is just a contracted freight company. We've used others in the past, but it works well. They're at the slaughterhouse weekly, and they go to Cheshire Thursday mornings. So our beef, Thursday mornings I take beef in, and it'll get killed, and it'll hang for 7 days and get processed and boxed into primals, and then the next morning it's going out on the truck. So it's fresh, never frozen. We had some stores years ago that wanted to try quarters, and we were doing that. We didn't have a great way to wrap it and handle it because Whole Foods in their food safety things, we couldn't really put them in totes unless we were going to put each beef individually in a tote. So there would have been like 12 totes. Palletized totes. So that really wasn't going to be an option. We were going to need like 30 of them, to rotate, and we were worried about cleaning and stuff. So we were wrapping them in cheesecloth and bubble wrap and putting them on a pallet that way. It worked well for 2 stores, and 1 store couldn't manage it.
They're heavy even as quarters, right?
Yeah, 240-pound 4-quarter sometimes. Yeah. They were managing it that way. The 1 store was challenged with, they wouldn't unwrap it right off, and it would sweat. And then they would complain that there was an odor or the texture of the meat. The other 2 stores would unwrap it immediately, put it in their cooler on the rail for the customer to see. The customers ate it up.
I bet.
They loved it. They loved seeing the old hometown butcher effect. And this one meat team leader, they call him meat team leader, they're meat managers. He was the one that started it in Boston at the store Fresh Pond. And he's like, he put in a rail, just an 8-foot rail, but just enough for that look. Hook them, and then, his cutters would go over there and they'd break them down, and the people would just stand there in the aisleway and watch it because they hadn't seen it. I mean,
old world,
and his sales, he wanted more. He's like, it's increased my sales like I thought it would, and we're like, we can't give you more. It worked well for him, and other stores it didn't. And they were calling us for credit and stuff, so we had to discontinue it. We're just like, we can't give you credit if you're not managing it. So we went back to everything in shrink tube, and vacuum packed primals. There's butcher shops. I talking with a guy in Boston, and there's some high-end butcher shops in Boston. They don't want grass-fed. They want grain-finished beef in these butcher shops in Boston. New York is different. It's funny how the 2 markets are different. And this guy, he's from Hardwick Beef. You've probably heard the name.
Sure.
And Michael says, you need to get into those butcher shops in Boston because they want grain finished. They don't want the grass finished. New York wants the grass finished. But Boston, older world, whatever, mentality, they want grain finished. And he said, I can't move my grass-fed products in Boston. He said, I bring them all in New York. I can't. he said, I can move them in New York. I can't move them in Boston.
What are the biggest holdups for you in developing new markets? What is it? Time? Is
time,
it talent? Or what is
time, talent. I think it's going to cost some money, to get somebody out there and pound on the doors. I don't have time managing the farm. I mean,
So your current array of staffing doesn't allow for...
We don't have the manpower. I don't have the expertise. I've been to a few of the local markets up in Burlington, the meat shops, and tried to get in. And when I hear no, I just kind of give up. I'm not that guy that's going to go back there 2 weeks later and pound on the door again. And that takes a different person than what I am. I'd rather be on the ground here with the animals and the crops, anyways, than out trying to sell our products. So, we haven't had and Dr. Cooper, the owner, just hasn't had the appetite to really spend a lot on it because it's been working the way it is.
Yep.
And, he understands to sell the farm. He would get probably more value if we did have diversified markets. And he's willing to, to try to build some, but he's had people try to move his product years ago when he was early on, and they all failed. So he's just like, you know what, we've done well by ourselves, but I think, if we could put on, a person part-time, to try to develop some markets or team up with somebody that's got a marketing scheme. We had an interested investor a few months ago that wanted to kind of do that. I think the advantage for him was our whole food connection. Our advantage with him was he was in a lot of different markets, but it didn't work out. We didn't come to terms with that agreement. So,
would you consider your operation profitable, sustainable at its current scale, or
we're sustainable?
Sustainable.
We're we get by. We're self-sufficient. Dr. Cooper, from over the last 4 or 5 years, he's put money in a couple times to help.
Just cash flow thing.
Help cash flow some things. We had to take a month off from selling, just to help pay some of the bills. He put some cash in. But at 84 and retired, he's not wishing to do that every year. It was one thing when he was working, and there was some tax benefits to doing that. But so we're sustaining, but we're not putting a nest egg away for the lean times or anything. We don't have that luxury, and our equipment's aging. We're nervous about that, but there's no debt load on this farm. There hasn't ever been. So that's a bonus. He's always been, kind of the mentality, we buy what we can afford.
Does he pay himself out of the operation?
No, he's never.
No repayment on the capital unless.
So if you were to take and pay himself a salary, we wouldn't be sustained. We wouldn't even be breaking even.
So his marketing efforts are gratuity, so to speak, for the
the pride in the operation, what he's done. It's been a passion for him. He'd tell you today, even though he was one of the best, they say, his research on breast cancer through the years at Tufts University and then in private practice at Faulkner Hospital, was one of the best pathologists there was in New England. He still says he's prouder of what we've done here than what he did there. He grew up in West Virginia, and was around beef. Never worked with him or anything. But he was always intrigued about growing animals. He thought about organic dairy, but he saw that, that those markets were, maybe at capacity, and there wasn't a lot of organic beef. He wanted to put out a wholesome product that he felt good about. Doing cancer research all his life, he's like, yes, some of it's genetic, but some of it's definitely environmental. And he wanted to feel good about a product. He never thought it would grow to this level. He started a little farm down in South Newfane near Brattleboro with 8 heifers and a bull. And for a couple years, the second year they obviously had the calves, so then they had like 20 head, and then the next year there was 30 head, and they started to outgrow it. And then when this Hereford operation, the owner died and the family dispersed it, he came up at the auction and bought a lot of this. Then he had to ramp up big time. and luckily Whole Foods ramped up with it,
Timing was probably good.
The timing was good. There wasn't a lot of organic beef in the market, and Whole Foods was growing. They had brought Bread and Circus, which was a smaller market in Boston, and he was in those Bread and Circus stores also. So, it just kind of grew quick, and he had to grow with it.
Is there pressure on that account for you right now? I mean, if say
there's not, we can think of. We know of one or two other organic beef growers. There's one in New Jersey, and they actually have a satellite farm in New York, or they did have a few years ago still. I don't know if they're still over there near Fort Anne, New York. But no, to be quite honest with you, I've only been in 2 or 3 of the stores. But mostly what's on the shelf is either natural or grass-fed. There's not a lot of other organic beef lines in the stores. Now, if you get in the area down near Jersey where that other farm was, they like to source from a close vendor. So we are both in one of the stores there. But that guy's his scale's it's about half of ours. So it's not a huge competitive thing there. It's challenging, with the numbers and being organic and the expense of growing organic beef and growing it in the Northeast. I mean, I think if this farm was, in the southern half of the country, it could be profitable, but we're feeding cattle, we're feeding those mother cows for 6 months. We're not grazing for 6 months, and that's expensive. That's expensive.
Between the bedding and the feed.
The bedding and the feed, we're square baling, large square bales, 8-foot square bales. We're baling 2,500 to 2,800 of those a year. When we start baling hay, we hope for good weather, but even then, we're still baling for like 3 weeks. We'll stop baling some first cut, chop our second cut forage, go back to baling first cut. It takes that long to bale. You can bale a couple hundred bales a day, but it takes time to get up to 2,500 square bales. It takes a few weeks, and if Mother Nature throws a wrench in there every 2-3 days, it takes longer. We have one farm that's in a bird program on Otter Creek. We can't cut it till August, and it's a good thing because we probably wouldn't get there till then anyways. So it works out well. They're not calling me saying, when are you going to cut the hay? Because they made the choice, to put it in the bird program. That steer right there is one that we'll probably select this afternoon too, right here. Just nice full round hindquarters, good solid back.
And he's going to hang it.
That one's a little lighter. I'd say that one probably is 1250 on the hoof. You'd be on a little bit lighter side than what we really want, but still a beautiful animal. I'm sure marbled really well. You don't see any of the hip bones, you're not seeing any shoulder structure there, the points of bone, when you can still see that, they're not finished.
Got a little waddle to them.
Little waddle, yep. This brown one here with the white on his back is getting real close too, Put them into a different market.
I think there's definitely opportunities with that. I don't know where that market is. I can't
No.
Yet.
Well, we could even put them through Whole Foods if there wasn't a market. I'm sure we could do a little special with them, advertising. Probably the guy in Fresh Pond would eat it up.
That makes sense to me from your perspective.
Right. Just to see, because in your program you want to follow up and see what grading is and yields and stuff like that. Correct.
Have focus groups and consumer feedback. And, set honestly the 3 classes of beef that you described. I mean, I'd like to lay all those in front of a consumer and get the feedback.
And we'd be intrigued on doing something like that,
For this breeding cycle, you thinking?
We won't be breeding till July.
Okay.
We won't be breeding till July.
Okay.
So, you know, there's, and then, you know, even if we didn't have things set up for that cycle, we breed again in November. So, you know,
your fall group.
the fall group.
So that'd be interesting.
With the organic standards, we would be then considered a split farm operation. If we brought animals in that were not organic, and that were from
like your Lester farm or something like that.
We might have to do it like over there.
Yep. You could isolate them.
We could isolate them. It'd be easier to manage. They wouldn't be commingled. Because identification would be a huge thing. You know, assuring that. You know, if somebody lost an ear tag or something, you know, now definitely I think we would all be able to know the difference between a Wagyu cross and what we're crossing.
Is that a big step to take that barn and turn it into a finished barn? Because this is your only finished barn right now.
That barn can be divided.
You get your mixing wagon and other components.
It can be divided over there.
Okay.
That would be one thing is to have two different groups over there would be a challenge too, because you know you'd have to go over there with two different loads of feed. But you know, maybe with some proper planning, you know, we'd be able to figure something out.
How many is it necessary for you to bite something new off like this and develop a new market? How many?
I think being realistic, I wouldn't want to start with more than 50.
Okay.
Just to try it, you know, so we didn't have, you know, a third of our operation tied up into something, you know, or, you know, watch the ice.
Yeah, I've been kind of curious.
I would say 50 would be a starting number. I wouldn't want to go into 100 or more, you know, and I think that'd
what
be.
What we'd like to do is like a pilot demonstration with these genetics and see what people can do with different feed programs. So like you would be our organic example. It'd be a demonstration on an organic feed farm, taking these Wagyu genetics and saying, we can put them on your beef. We can compare that to putting them on Holstein
dairy.
We can finish those. You could finish some, or we could finish some somewhere else. And then we can just kind of track the performance of those sires on these different animals.
We don't need to go all the way down there, but this is kind of our intermediate group. So these animals are ranging 900 to 800 to 1,000, 1,100 pounds. So they come from the other two barns where they were weaned calves growing up to 900 weights. Then they come to this barn and then they rotate over there.
How does the feed program differ here?
It's kind of a maintenance ration. It'd be closer to your heifer grower ration. You know, it's a little bit more of a maintenance ration. You're starting to even out the protein to energy in this group. About 50-50.
So lowering the exercise a little bit, keeping them close to
starting to develop, you know, some of that intermuscular fat. And
is this dry hay?
That is dry hay for bedding.
Okay, so in those squares, it doesn't.
We cover it in our normal storage. We just trucked it in yesterday.
Oh, okay.
That'll be gone in a week.
Okay.
So if a little weather hits it, you know, the top bale's got a little snow on them, like you see. But
where's it coming from? Where's it coming? Sorry, where's it coming?
We store up on the hill. We've got a large area and we cover it all with plastic. The day we bale it, we cover it. So I mean, it doesn't look like bedding. It looks like good feed hay because it didn't get rained on. And they do eat it when you first spread it in there. Oh yeah, we just bed them an hour ago. So they were, And so that's bedding for these three facilities. We just trucked it in yesterday, or Monday before the snow.
Do you contract out a lot of your work, or you guys do it all in-house?
We do it all.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing was the manure spreading. And if we have a serious mechanical thing, transmission or motor, it would go to but regular maintenance, everything like that, we do it ourselves.
You sound pretty settled on your genetics and your choices on the breeding and things. When it comes to what you watch happening in the industry as far as progress on beef on dairy, what are you perceiving as far as the past few years? It seems like there's a fair amount of chatter, at least.
There is, and there's a guy up north, Mark Boyden, Boyden Family Beef, that tried it. And I haven't talked to him. I don't know what happened. He was taking and having dairy farms take some of that double muscling genetics of beef bulls and using them on their heifers, and he guaranteed he'd pay them. I think he was paying them $200 a calf at birth. He was taking them home, absorbing all the risk, bottle feeding. He hired a girl to manage those calves. So the dairy farmer, you know, I'm sure he made sure they got colostrum, because that's key.
Before they left. Yep.
But he would pick those calves up at 2-3 days old, bring them back to his facility. I do know that he's changed his model now, so I'm imagining it wasn't the success he hoped. But he had dairy farmers, he had several dairy farmers up in that Cambridge area, Jeffersonville, doing that for him.
He was using, what is that, limousine, Limflex or what?
Yeah, and the other, what's the other one? Piedmontese is what I think he was using the most of.
Yep.
And he was having them breed their heifers, and he guaranteed he'd take their calf, heifer, or steer.
Yep. He gave
so for the guys who didn't need to build replacements, or they could do it with a fraction of their animals, and he guaranteed them a price he'd pay them. So, I mean, the bob calf market is just so volatile, and there's times where these guys, they won't take the Jersey calves. Some of these Jersey growers have told me that they're having to feed their Jersey calves for 4 or 5 weeks to get enough on them for the sale barns to even take them. And then they only get $20. He says, I can't, one guy told me, he says, I can't bottle feed that calf for 3 weeks and get $20. So,
I know. I was at a
your model is I think intriguing, probably, you know, and for a lot of these guys to think about. And I guess I just don't, you know, not seeing any of the end product ever, I don't know. Now I know some of the bigger dairy farms here in Addison County. For a while, we're keeping all their bull calves, banding them, and raising steer calves, and putting a potbelly load together to go to Pennsylvania. And I think at one point they were doing fairly well. But the industry, you know, the market changes so much that I think then at one point the price was low, so a lot of these guys were holding these steers, they're eating a lot of feed, they're getting too big, then Pennsylvania doesn't want them, you know, Cargill doesn't want them if they weigh 1,800. You know, so I think there's been all those challenges. You know, Jim Bushy from Bordeaux Bushy Feed and Fertilizer, he was one that got several of those larger dairy farms, and I'm talking, this was 15 years ago that they were trying this. He's like, hey, if you're not going to get anything for them, feed them your waste, your spoil feeds out of the feed bunks. You know, what the cows don't eat, clean it up, give your cows the best feed, take their spoils from their feed bunks and give it to these steers and let them eat it. It'll be cheap feed for them, and if you got the space. And there was quite a few. The Dubois farm did it for quite a while. And I used to butcher some animals for my father-in-law. He's got a custom meat shop just a couple miles from here. And I butchered some of those steers. And I mean, they look nice, you know? So, you know, I can only imagine you cross a Wagyu onto some of those cows, you know, it's going to be, I would say, you know, you might have it's going to be, you know, it's a nice balance, I think. Typically, those Holsteins are a lot leaner, unless they were steers. They would get fatty. Those steers would get fatty, but they were close to 2 years old, too, to get the fat. They got all bone at first. But with the Wagyu, you know, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I mean, Mark's been doing it now for a long time. I mean,
5 years.
Easily, hasn't he? Yeah. I can remember going over there. It seemed like longer ago than that, and he was showing me a bunch of maybe it was when he first started. There were a bunch of heifers he'd bred or something. But you know, I looked at his animals earlier this winter. I went over and talked to him, and one time after you and I talked, and then one of our other vets boards some for him, Kent Anderson over here. I went over and saw them, and they were just like last spring's calves, just to see the difference, because at home he had basically finishers there, and you know, and they look nice. You know, I had looked at some Wagyu several years ago at a beef producers meeting, and I wasn't impressed on those, but Mark has got some different genetics than what I saw at this other place.
Well, the Western, you know, ranches and things are demanding Wagyu that and the genetics that actually beef out.
Yeah.
So they've identified some of the sires, and there's some names that are attached to those.
Yes.
And now for crossbreeding program, they're prescribing certain sires. Snake River is active, Agri-Beef is active, leasing out. I think Mark was saying some 1,200 bulls now.
Are they really?
Cow-calf operations around. So the Wagyu influence is coming in. And they've got to develop the growth rates, and it seems like ribeye and other characteristics that beef packers are going to demand.
Yes.
So they're coming along.
Yeah, the beef packers are going to demand that. They're not going to want a little ribeye like that, to compete with what's already out there. And no matter how well it's marbled, they're going to want some consistency too.
I think the coordination piece is maybe the last question. You're an independent operation. You do a lot of things in-house, only custom hire for your manure spreading. How interested would you be in a cooperative effort for some of these brokering some of these animals, and what is your appetite for that kind of partnership risk, I guess you might say, as a user of a cooperative for marketing beef?
I guess I'd have to think about that one more. I think that the challenges that we have, even though we're independent, we've got a lot of fingers on us with the organic standards and the GAP standards that, and like I mentioned, having the split farm operation thing. That's so for us too, just for herd health, bringing other animals in is always a little scary. I mean, we do bring in breeding stock, but to bring in animals, a lot of different animals from a lot of different farms, just the biosecurity of that is a little scary. We'd have to be knowing that we were sourcing that stuff in from reputable.
Single source would be ideal.
Single source would be ideal. Yes.
For a lot of reasons, both the auditing and your own biosecurity.
It would. It would.
But you're interested in contractual relationships, perhaps? Would you say that's true, or? I think we'd look at it. A lot of folks get held up on, who's going to buy them and that kind of thing. But,
I mean, I think doing what we talked about with our own cows, I think we have a market we can move them through if there's not a developed market by that point. I'm not beef on Wagyu on beef. Wagyu on dairy, I guess I'd like to wait a little while and see how that works before I bite on that, too large a scale. Like I said, I mean, we could possibly do it on a smaller scale, where the risk wasn't as high. But
the chances of them being certified organic, I mean,
that's going to be zero.
There would be extensive coordination that had to go into that. And I don't
think you'd get a lot of buy-in. You're not going to get a lot of buy-in. That's why we don't have a lot of competition in our market that we're in, because the challenges of the organic. I've tried to get some other older retiring dairy farmers in Addison County to do this, and the minute I tell them they got to be organic certified, no. I'll grow you beef, but it ain't gonna be certified organic.
So a split operation for you?
I'd have to manage it. It can be done.
Maybe.
It can be done.
It can be done. Category.
But I couldn't bring in a lot of those animals and house them right in there with those animals. It'd have to be at that other facility, or it'd have to be at this facility. I can't commingle them. And I just have to keep the records, and the IDs and everything. And we already have full traceability from birth to the store. We know what store that beef went to. Okay, so we already have that. So that's not new for us. So it can be done. I mean, I use Excel and I do it with others
and such. Do you use the electronic IDs too?
We do. All our animals have RFIDs. Vermont said it was going to be, U.S. said it was going to be mandatory. It still isn't, but it's highly encouraged. We've been on RFIDs now for 3 years, 4 years, and And so that's, we've got the capability. Oh, it would be. It definitely would be. I think, and it's going to come. Eventually it's going to come. It's going to be mandatory eventually. I know Vermont's got a program right now where people can get tags free.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, great, thanks. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. My cows don't have them, and I was thinking, hey, maybe I'll just go get 300 from you, and I'll do my cows.
You don't have to go anywhere. They'll
too, and my cows will be done.
Yeah.
It won't be as good a traceability on the cow, because it's after the fact. We already have her, but no, all these animals have RFIDs.
Is this a newer facility that the Hereford operation built?
No, so the building on the right, the wooden side, was there.
Okay.
We added the front.
Okay.
And we added the other outside yard on the left. There used to just be a bigger yard with one feed alley. Okay. And we could never, I said, we got to have more space. So we built on the front addition and added on that other 20-foot alleyway. So we have a feed alley down the middle. We can house more and feed more down there now. We can easily feed 150 in there.
Okay.
And
running now?
Right now down there, we've got 30 in this end pen, and we've only got about 85 down there right now, because every week we're taking out of there, going over to the other barn, or every 2 weeks. So we get lean in the spring, and then it'll get filled when we wean our fall calves. The rest of all these calves from last spring will be going down there. So it's just we're a constant roller coaster in numbers in the barns. They go up and down through the seasons.
Quite an operation here. That's great. Yeah.
But
thank you for showing us. We do probably need to pull out.
Sure.
Soon,
No.
But this has been really helpful.